Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sell More Book Show, episode 522. I'm Brian Cohen from the 5-Day Author Ad Profit Challenge, joined by Renee Rose, author, abundance coach, author of the book Right to Riches. Just a great person. Hey, Renee, how are you?
I'm fabulous. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm so glad you've been able to join us for these couple of weeks. We had a lot of great talk about just kind of thinking in a positive, abundant way, even though it feels counterintuitive for a lot of authors. Renee, when you've come upon probably a lot of authors who are like, well, this is a bunch of hooey. Why should I listen to all this? What do you think is kind of some of the chief resistance you see authors butting up against when it feels like part of them wants to go in this direction, but they're stopping themselves somehow?
I think a lot of people will say like, oh, it works for other people, but not for me.
Interesting.
Yeah. So which is just another block.
Right. It's kind of like their story they're telling themselves, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you'll hear that about anything. It could be about ads. It could be about I happen to have a block with TikTok, where I'm like, oh, it works for other authors, but not for me, so it's like just knowing your blocks and recognizing instead of going, oh, that's a truth. No, that's a block.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to, I quoted Becca Syme last episode, but Becca Syme's questioned the premise.
Yes.
You've got to be open to questioning pretty much everything. I just posted on social media about this the other day, like thinking about how, oh, well, of course this is true with you. And it's like, well, you never truly know what, and so you sometimes have to think, well, what if you're wrong and something is different than the way you are assuming?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like that work by Byron Katie, where you're like, is this true? What if it weren't true? What would I be without this thought?
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Well, we talked about your website last week, which is rightoriches.com. Now you've got the Shopify going. You talked about this as one of your kind of future proofing steps. How has that gone for you? Shopify is, now becoming kind of a norm for a lot of people. And so, a lot of the first adopters and second adopters have done it already. And now all the third adopters are like, okay, I better get into it. How has that been for you?
It is going well. I've been, kind of pushing it for almost a year. It was like May of last year that I started running ads to it.
Yeah.
Before that, it was kind of just like, oh, hey, I have this store, which that didn't really work that well. The ads are, I wouldn't say hugely profitable, but then they push people also to the other platforms. So it's sort of a way, I kind of think of Shopify as a way of like covering your advertising cost.
I like that.
So it's like, even if I'm break even on my Shopify, I'm getting lots of new eyeballs over to Amazon or over to Apple, because people will read what they read on. And so a lot of people are like, I'm not going to buy from your store. I'm a Kindle user, or I'm a Kobo user, or whatever it is. And so they'll see your ad and then go find it on their platform, which is cool.
And you get email addresses from the people who do buy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So even if you're break even, you've got, it's almost like you have list building ads.
Good point.
That are, you're getting an email list for free.
Right. Exactly. And getting, the advertising to Amazon for free. So
yeah. No, it's, I'm a big fan. I'm actually in the process of setting up a Shopify store for my services, like blurbs and the coachings and the courses, and really excited about it. Totally terrified and nervous, but really excited.
No, I was too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but it's good. It's like that indie ownership, where once you have it, you're like, oh, why didn't I do this?
I know.
It's like, it feels so good, right?
I know. Yeah, I felt that way with TikTok. I heard about it in 2019 and I was like, yeah, I really should. And then it's like, 3.5 years go by. It's like, yeah, I probably would have had like 200,000 followers if I jumped in when I wanted to, but You know, it's all good. It
Yes,
all happened for a reason.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, we didn't have a last week's question because we're like so far into the future. I don't even have
Yes.
answers from the question of the week, but um, we'll just get into the show and it'll be
Awesome.
fun. So let's go into the top story of the week. Amplify your book to success. A lot of authors will say their book appeals to everyone, but in today's world, a book for all will go nowhere. Quote, in this environment, meh is the enemy, writes Kathy Yardley for Writer Unboxed. Ideally, you want people to either love it or hate it, but by God, they have strong feelings either way, end quote. Appealing to everyone leads to books that are safe, standard, and the equivalent of DMV beige or unseasoned boiled chicken breast. Quote, it takes something truly vibrant, amplified, and dare I say polarizing to connect with the right readers, says the author. How you do that is by starting with the right project. Impact has to be baked in at inception. Impact means personal passion, reader experience, and a great hook. If you write what you're thrilled to write, your passion will shine through. Think about what readers in that genre will adore, and then what will surprise them and keep them reading. And then you're going to turn up the volume on all of those elements. Quote, ultimately, you want to write things that make you grin and rub your hands together gleefully. End quote. Finally, what sort of viral moments are in your book that are going to get people talking in that OMG, that scene, the one at the wedding, I couldn't believe it, end quote, way. We live in a world filled with books and other types of entertainment, and often your book has mere moments to make a strong impression. Quote, once you've got all the delicious and deliberate material, you're going to distill the experience down for the most impact. Look at every element for ways to tighten, strengthen, enhance. A book that's amplified will find readers who will not only love your work, but spread it like an underground rebellion. I don't know if I've written anything, Renee, where I've been rubbing my hands together saying excellent, but I like that idea. I like that concept. I mean, have you ever had elements of this in some of the romance or nonfiction that you've written?
I definitely get like there's scenes I'm like super excited to write, where I'm like, um, but I also think like agree 100% with everything there. But I think like TikTok has pushed people to like sort of put in the TikTokable scenes,
Right, right.
and some people are like, oh, it's made all the difference. I'm doing really well. But what I noticed is that it can feel manufactured. Like it was like, like I don't know if you ever Joanna Bourne is this wonderful Regency author, and she talked about her first Regency didn't have a ball, and so the editor sent it back, and they were like, well, you need a ball. And so you can tell that the ball is just wedged in there. Right?
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of like that. It's like make it be what you're thrilled and excited to rub your hands together. Don't just like do it for the TikTokable scene,
Yeah, yeah, you have to earn it, right? You can't just like it has to be organic, but you also have to earn these TikTokable moments. Like all the dark romance or the fantasy romance has the "who hurt you" moment, and it's
Yes.
like, yeah, they all have that moment, but did they get to that moment in a way that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. And this is really interesting. Just the idea of keeping this in mind. I think a lot of authors who maybe aren't on TikTok or don't think about viral moments, this never enters their brain. And so, like, I'm going to change up my hot potato wisdom question because you've written successful romance. I want your opinion on this, Renee. So, okay, an author wants to start thinking in this way of having these moments that people are going to talk about, but they're not a TikTok person. They're not like looking for them specifically. Like, how does an author start even trying to research what might be a viral moment?
I love that question because I feel like this comes back to the like what gets you excited. So like
Mm,
we talked last week about being in the zone. So like you're in the zone with your characters, like what is the big scene? And then you amp up the tension of that moment. right? Either
Mm,
it's like got a longer lead up, or, because sometimes you have these big scenes, but then they're kind of like, you could do more with them.
yeah.
So it's like doing the most with that scene. Like, how do you get the biggest impact out of that scene that did have you excited? Like,
I like
you
that.
really lead up the tension, and then it goes bam, and then you end the chapter with a cliffhanger, and then you start with a new bam. And, it's kind of like that sort of amplification of what I'm sure you're already doing.
I really like that because I've definitely had scenes. I haven't written fiction in a while, but I had scenes like I remember one of the cliffhanger endings to one of my books. These are my superhero books. I was like, I love this, and I wonder if I had let it even expand more and allowed that scene to breathe more, if I would have enjoyed it even more, and then my readers would have enjoyed it more. So you got me thinking for
Yeah,
you
like
know,
go over the top with it. Like that's what the
yeah.
like the TV shows do. Where they're like dun dun dun. Kind of think of that like drama that they
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
before the commercial break.
I was raised on the primetime soaps. I watched Melrose Place. I watched 90210, the
Right.
originals. They
Yeah, they
were
go
all
like,
about those
yeah,
cliffs.
all, up with the drama, up with
Oh yeah.
and then with the costumes and all of that. Like, I went to a meeting with, it was like screenwriters talking to authors about like how
Yeah.
to get, and that's one of the things they talked about is like how Bridgerton has the big costumes, like what is the, big, beautiful, it's like they said, think about the big cinematic scene, it's the bride on the hill and then someone's running or, like
Yeah.
like to think cinematically, is that
Yeah,
a word?
cinematically. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that sort of helped my writing to like just to amp up those moments.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. All right, you got a question for me.
All right. So how can an author determine which elements of their book are worth amplifying?
Well, I think that when you are in your stages of getting feedback, and I've always been a fan of alpha readers. I know people love like later on in the process, once I've had a chance to massage things, I'm very much like no. What's your first instinct of my first instinct? Because then you're early enough in the process that you're willing to make bigger changes.
True.
And so if you've got that, oh, I really liked this part, that if one of your alpha readers says, I really like this part, or they have suggestions on that kind of part that they liked but want to amp it up, like that's your clue. I worry that, we sometimes use beta readers just to catch typos, which I think is fine. But usually we're using these kind of readers so late in the process that we really don't want to make changes that would get in the way of our deadline. And so
Yeah.
if it's like, hey, this character, you named them something else back there and they had a different backstory. I'm like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because I have to get this
To the
finalized
editor.
by tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you're getting feedback earlier in the process, maybe it's not even on your whole book. Maybe it's just on part of it. But if you get that feedback earlier and you get specific notes, then you can kind of use that to amplify.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's not going to be for everybody, but works for me. So
No. Yeah. No. And we had, I was talking about like those TikTokable scenes.
yeah.
We had one where we stuck it in like, oh, this is going to be the TikTok scene. And because it was that like sticking it in, the beta reader was like, I got bored here. And it was supposed to be like the big TikToking scene.
Oh,
So it's like you said, we hadn't earned it.
there we go.
It wasn't.
What'd
So
you
like
do?
having a reader who will tell you that is super useful.
Did you take it out or did you massage it?
We tried to up the tension in it
Okay.
to give it, yeah.
Did it reach TikTokable status?
I guess we'll see. I know it's not out yet, so we'll see.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You might have to come back sometime and let
Right.
me know. That's such a cliffhanger right there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, Renee, you've got your second shot at a lightning sound as we go into the lightning round. How do you want to play this? Ooh, I like that. It went a little bigger, which I think was good. I think you're more comfortable here in second episode.
Yeah.
That was great. That was great. All right. So, in a way, we talked about this a little bit last week, but it's kind of from a different angle. So, what do you say to authors who are skeptical or embarrassed to try energetic tools and techniques for the first time?
Yeah. So that's when I say, look, this is brain science. which it
Mm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
I personally prefer to think of it as magic or energetic.
Yeah.
But if you don't believe in quantum physics and quantum entanglements, then you think of it as a way of just working with your own brain to engineer your success.
I like that.
It's just, it's just basic psychology. It's just that I feel the energy beneath the psychology, it's like beneath the psychology. But some people, that's just, and I think for some people, it also might challenge like religious beliefs. They go like, I'm not sure that's meshes with what I already. So if science helps you think of like, it's just science. Like maybe you don't know how your microwave works, but you trust that it cooks the food. Like same thing. This is, you don't,
Yeah.
you just know that it's brain science working.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. Reminded me of the movie Thor 2, which is funny, but basically Thor says, "Oh, all that science stuff on Earth, that we call that magic." And
I
so,
love that.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So, awesome. I think you've got a question for me.
I do. So, how can authors get over the fear or embarrassment of marketing or selling?
I see this kind of thing all the time where authors are saying, like, how do I get over feeling like, a sham for promoting my stuff or embarrassed for telling people about it? And the answer that I usually give is you do not want to deprive readers of something that they could enjoy, that could entertain them or educate them. Your book might be the one that speaks to them. And if you kind of hide it or you hold it back, that reader who needed your book in this moment might not get it. And
You
so
gave
it
me
is,
goosebumps. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good. Yeah.
well, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'll have to bottle this up at some point, but
Yes.
like you can, you can feel like you deserve to put this out there because you are the kind, you have something special. And if you don't market it, those readers may never find out about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
So Renee, Amazon just announced that Kindle Vella is now free for Prime students. So college students who have Prime, which likely means they probably aren't paying authors for those reads. One would assume. Is there a way you think authors can use this to promote their Vella reads?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not like Vella was paying authors much anyway. So really it is just it is about getting a new tapping into new audience and younger readers, or at least for me.
Mm,
So when I put a book up there, I thought, well, the majority of my readers are like, 45 and over.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if I can catch some of the new ones who are like prefer to read on an app, um, have never heard of me before by putting my, you think of it more as PR, I think, than you think of it as and then you hope you make it up with the bonuses.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it's really interesting with Vela these days. Hopefully, authors will still be able to get some success, even though now it's the first 10 snippets free instead of the first three. But yeah, you've got a question for me.
Yes. Here we go. Victoria Strauss from Writers Beware often discusses scam artists targeting indies. Why are self-published authors the primary targets of fake agents and fake publisher scammers?
Well, I think that a lot of indies are really hoping like to get discovered in the way of a traditional publishing type deal. They just said, well, that didn't work for me, so I'm going indie. And they're working so hard and they're working writing their 10th book or their 20th book, and then they get this email in kind of a weak, tired state, and they see this and they want to believe. They just want to believe. And I get the phone calls. I mean, there are so many scammers out there saying, "Oh, I read your book and it was so great." And it is just, there are so many more authors who have finished books in the self-publishing space than in the traditional publishing space, and it's so much easier to find us because our books are on Amazon and our websites are linked from those books, that it just makes sense for indies to be targeted more. But definitely looking at sites like Writers Beware to keep up on the latest scam, and to just always assume that something is a scam until proven differently. I wish it didn't have to be the case because I'm such a positive person, but you have to be smart.
No, but I mean, we could flip this into positivity because here's the thing. like everyone's looking for that outside recognition of success, and it's like the badge that proves you're not imposter, right? That you're legit.
Mm,
And so being that for yourself is the protection, right? So
yeah.
when you're like, oh no, I am legit, I don't need the outside badge, that's when you can match with greater success. And certainly like those things will just like fluff off you. You won't be a target, or you won't, like you said, you won't succumb to it.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of goes into our last question because being chosen outside from the outside is, flattering and validating, even if it is a scam artist. Ideally, it's not. But what are some healthier ways for self published authors to look for similar feelings of validation?
Yeah. So I like if someone says like, what's your number one tip for authors, I always say, love your books. Because when you're in that energy of love, you believe in them. And if you love them and believe in them, others will too. You're putting them out there with that energy of like, these are enough. You're going to love these because I do. Um, and what you've already written is already good enough. Like, I think we have that idea of like, oh, I don't know, I just started, or, even me 11 years later, it's still not sure if I'm good enough. But like my very first pretty cringy book is 11 years old. It only has 83 reviews on Amazon, but it sold 100 copies a week. And there was one reader who told me she loved it. She gave it 4 stars, but she told me she loved it so much she printed it out and kept it by her bedside table to read every night.
Aww.
So like you said, like, I mean, part of me wants to take it down because like I said, it's very cringy, but it reached somebody. It meant, it meant something. There's an audience for every book. And so you are enough. Your book is enough. Love that book and it will go out there and succeed.
Good advice. Good advice, Renee. We need a question of the week here at the end of the lightning round. We talked about all sorts of stuff. This enhancing scenes, amplifying the TikToky moments. We talked about the embarrassment of trying things like manifesting, embarrassment of marketing, this, validation, self-validation of your books. What do you want to ask our wonderful listeners, Renee? Or in the direction of, because I can shape it. Improv.
Something about, something about this, like, I like the TikToky scenes, like something about you're amplifying your.
Yeah, I mean.
Like, how do you find the scenes?
How do you find the scenes? How could you find and amplify the scenes in your book that readers could be the most excited about?
Yeah, because sometimes it is like hiring one of those TikTok readers who pulls the stuff for you, because it's not always what you think.
Yeah.
Is what. But then when they give it to you, you're like, oh, of course, those are the most emotional moments, or those are the,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
so,
I like that.
How do you find?
I'm just gonna say, how could you find, since I imagine a lot of people haven't ever done this, how could you find and flesh out the most potentially viral scenes from your next book?
Love that question.
Oh, thank you. Awesome.
Something we should all think about. Yes.
Oh, I know. I absolutely agree. Now I'm like, I'm thinking about it. But you can answer the question of the week over at the Sell More Book Show after party or on sellmorebookshow.com. Renee, it's been such a delight having you here. Where can people find you, your books, and everything you have?
Yeah, so I have a Facebook group called Author Abundance Central. I'd love to see everybody there. And the website for my Write to Riches book is Write, WRITE, 2 riches.com. And there's information you can get on the waiting list for the next time I run a course there too.
Awesome. Very exciting. I hope you had fun, Renee. I had a lot of fun having you.
So much fun. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I appreciate you taking the time today.
I loved it. Thank you.
Good. Awesome. Well, we'll have your partner in crime, Lisa Vino, here next week. So I'm excited. It's like a month of manifesting.
I love it.
Yeah. And so for Renee, I'm Brian. Remember, you can check out my 5-day challenge. Starts April 17th, authorsadvertise.com. I hope you all have a wonderful week of selling books, and we'll talk to you next week for episode 523. Bye.
Thank you.